guys, it's me, Allie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing 90s movie fashion from some of my favorite 90s movies. If you have watched my channel for a while, you might know that I am a huge fan of the 90s period. Music, movies, fashion, everything. I think movies are a really great way to find your style and find what speaks to you. So over the course of me finding out what kind of movies I like, what kind of style I like, I found that I gravitated towards a lot of these 90s movies and a lot of the style in these 90s movies. So today I'm going to be going into some of my favorites, some of the most inspiring to me, and some others that are just super fun. So without further ado, let us begin. So the first movie I want to talk about that I personally feel like does not get enough recognition is Jawbreaker from 1999. But Jawbreaker is kind of like Mean Girls, but if there was murder and if everybody was like 90s bitchy instead of 2000s bitchy. I love this movie so much, first of all, because the plot is like a sweet murder mystery kind of thing. Their fashion is just incredible. A lot of bright colors. If you think of the name Jawbreaker of the movie and you envision a jawbreaker, it's kind of like that rainbow of bright colors against a white background. The costume designer did say that, of course, they were inspired by a jawbreaker when they were doing all these designs. The costume designer of this movie is Vicki Barrett, and she said that the clothes were supposed to look really happy. There was a surprise element to them so that you wouldn't know these girls were dark, which if you've seen the movie, it really makes sense. Again, I don't want to give away a lot about these movies, but it is like a murder mystery kind of. Another aspect of the movie and the characterization that the costume designer kind of considered was that girls in this movie were the popular bitchy girls in school. So the costume designer wasn't imagining like what would normal high school girls wear. It would be what would the popular cunty bitchy girls wear, you know? I feel like that definitely shows throughout the whole movie. Vicki Barrett does say that the silhouettes were inspired by retro fashions. I just personally love the colors and the matching on all of these outfits. This is like how I personally match my clothes. Well, if you have a top that has maybe like a paisley with a bunch of different colors, blue, orange, yellow will match a bottom with one of these colors. I really love the styling of this movie. Another thing the costume designer mentioned that is very interesting to think about retroactively, Courtney, aka Rose McGowan, who is the 90s darling, was styled as a femme fatale because she is like the most evil of the trio. So they styled her in more corsets, tight pencil skirts, but they did the pencil skirt with modern fabrics like rubber, so it kind of, you know, raises the bar a little bit. Craziest thing I learned about the styling of this movie in my research was that this movie actually had a very limited costume design budget. A lot of the pieces were vintage or thrifted, which obviously makes my little thrifter heart so happy because all of the girls look so pretty. I would recommend this movie to everybody. There's also a side plot where this like quote-unquote ugly character gets a makeover and she's just totally like glamazon when she comes out of it. So I love this movie so much. Next movie I'm gonna talk about, I feel like this movie is not as talked about, but it's still amazing. This movie is called Hackers and it's from 1995. It does star Angelina Jolie and it has Matthew Lillard, which are some cult classic favorites. So this movie I do love because of the fashion, but the plot is kind of like a hacker, cyber themed mystery. I think it's really great. All of the characters have such fun and distinct personalities, and the fashion is crazy. So essentially, Roger Burton, the costume designer for this movie, said that he went to a hacker convention in New York City because that's where the most prolific hackers came all together and were able to be seen in one place. He observed and said that they were honestly kind of lame and didn't really have any fashion sense. So essentially, he based the styling of these characters off of 90s club kids and things that he saw in magazines, which I thought was really, really cool. Also said that he was inspired by this thing in the 90s called Wigstock in the Lower East Side, where a bunch of people dressed up and came out. He mentioned Lady Bunny, so I'm not sure if this was like a queer kind of drag thing. But the stylist also mentioned that a lot of the people in this festival shopped at Patricia Field, which is a designer that Amy Winehouse also wore. So like everything is matching up here. You know, the timelines are matching up. So a quote from Roger is, "We're getting into that whole New York club scene, which was great, and then mixing it up with classic English punk new romantic stuff." Burton also mentioned that the producers of the movie were worried that it would be too fashion forward, so he didn't go too futuristic Club Kid and instead mixed the Club Kid thing with kind of like classic pieces and silhouettes as well. I just love how everybody looks in this movie. Like, I think Angelina Jolie's little straitjacket look is so fitting for her character, and Matthew Lillard with the little pants chain and the braids going on. It is just so cute and so quintessential 90s caricature to me. I love the characterization of all of these people. And look at these little flame shorts. Like, this is so 2017 Allie, if you know, you know. This movie we're going to be talking about is one of my top 4 movies of all time. It is called Cruel Intentions from 1999, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, and Reese Witherspoon. Okay, this is a star-studded cast. This is a dark romance movie, and the characters are kind of like fancy New Yorkers, so the fashion is a little bit more sophisticated. As it so happens, the filming of this movie happened during a late 90s business uniform surge. Like Friends, Seinfeld, everybody was wearing turtlenecks, two-pieces, kind of like business suits. Women were starting to wear like business suits. So I feel like that's kind of reflected in this movie. So again, the styling of this movie is very specific to each of the characters. We have 4 main characters. So we have Sarah Michelle Gellar. She's like the bitchy, cunty kind of evil one, and she wears the most dark outfits, kind of moody, brooding, but still very elegant. The next we have Annette, who is kind of like the opposite. I think her name is Catherine. Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, she's like literally the opposite of that. It's like devil and angel. So Reese Witherspoon's character wears a lot of white colors, lights. That was intentionally styled to kind of go against the dark of Catherine and Sebastian, who is played by Ryan Phillippe. The costume designer mentioned that Ryan Phillippe wore a lot of Prada as Sebastian in the movie, which makes a lot of sense because Sebastian is kind of just like a rich asshole. So our next character is Cecile, who is this kind of like child-minded, underdeveloped young woman. And Cecile is definitely dressed younger in the movie, I guess. She's styled to look like the age that she is mentally and the way that she acts. Another thing I wanted to flag is the costume designer mentioned in a scene where Cecile and Sebastian are kind of hooking up, but it's not like predatory, but it's like, oh, like what is she doing? Cecile, Selma Blair, was styled in red to kind of signify Little Red Riding Hood going to the big bad wolf. And just reading that in my research, I was like, what? Mind blown. Like, so much stuff is subliminally communicated through costume design, and I feel like that is so beautiful. Outfits of Catherine and Cecile kind of reflect their age, maturity, and where they are in life. So Catherine is very power-driven, and I guess I would say evil, and the costume designer essentially dressed her sensual and very dark and brooding to kind of counteract like the evilness of her personality, so the sensuality is kind of like a distraction. Costume designer of Cruel Intentions, Denise Wingate, actually worked super closely with the set designers to kind of make sets and outfits that complemented each other. And I think that the palette of Cruel Intentions, it's such a beautiful movie to watch. When you see the pictures now and the outfits together, it makes total sense and it looks so beautiful together. So again, it's really the little things that the costume designers think of that we don't, that really go into like making a movie. This next movie we're discussing is my favorite movie of all time. It is True Romance from 1993. It inspired the Robbers music video by the 1975 and True Romance, the album by Charlie XCX. So clearly the movie has like some deeper meanings here, but the movie is amazing. The script was written by Quentin Tarantino, so it has that little bit of flair, but it was directed by Tony Scott, so it's not technically a Tarantino movie. Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette play the 2 main characters, and they are absolutely fabulous. So Susan Becker, the costume designer, says that there was not a lot of like fashion direction or mention of the character's fashion sense in the script, so a lot of faith was put in her to kind of style the characters, and she did a fantastic fantastic job. Essentially, Alabama, who was played by Patricia Arquette, is a call girl, so she was kind of styled around what Susan Becker kind of thought or knew that strippers or sex workers or anything like that would wear. Susan Becker actually said that Alabama's costumes were sort of a combination of Fredericks of Hollywood, classic sex worker clothes, but adorable. She was cute, sweet, and innocent. So that is definitely a reflection of Alabama towards the beginning of the movie. Very sweet, very cute, and Fredericks of Hollywood is so tea. Another Amy Winehouse favorite. But Clarence, who is played by Christian Slater, a little bit of a loser who worked at a comic store, and he was styled as such in the beginning. Very plain outfit going on. So this movie is essentially like an action love story. It's a love story, but a lot gets in the way. To make a long story short, Clarence and Alabama go on the run, and once they go on the run and abandon everything, they kind of lose their previous sense of fashion and go into like this new territory together. It's very free, it's very retro. Susan Becker actually said that she was envisioning them like going to thrift stores on the road trip, so I think that's super reflective of their outfits here. Another thing I love about this movie, and through my research I just found this out, is that the costume designer did design a lot of the pieces, but a lot of them were also thrift store finds, which makes my little heart so happy, okay? So essentially, Susan Becker talks about how they found this shirt in the thrift store for $3, this one that Alabama wears in this brutal fight scene with James Gandolfini, which is like so legendary. This movie is amazing. Because she gets covered in blood throughout the scene, they had to like replicate the top and dye it like perfectly the same color as the one that they thrifted, which seems so fun, but also like a nightmare. So shout out to True Romance. I do love this movie. So next we are going to be talking about another favorite of mine, which is The Craft from 1996. This movie is just like peak witchy, light emo, goth 90s fashion. I love it so much. I did an old video on my channel of like The Craft inspired outfits because this movie has been such a source of fashion inspiration for me for years now. It's amazing. It's just quintessential like 90s fashion to me. The girls are witchy and accessorized, but it's never overdone. Something I realized when going back and watching 90s movies now, honestly, the characters were not so accessorized. They let the clothes speak. If they're wearing jewelry, it's usually like one necklace, commands the attention, and then everything else is kind of just demure and plain. So I feel like, you know, through finding my fashion and the whole TikTok surge and maximalism and everything, I kind of lost sight of that, but now I'm going back to like, wait, less is more. Accessories, what I say as I'm wearing like all these accessories, but Anyways, so this movie is about a coven of witches, and I don't want to give too much away. It's like a suspenseful, I don't want to say horror movie, but maybe it is. The main witch is Nancy, and she is like the bitchiest of them all. The costume designer actually said that Nancy's clothes were her armor, so that explains why she wears a lot more leather. She has like a spiked choker. She does her hair super crazy. Black lipstick, the whole nine, so it makes sense. The other witches in her coven kind of keep it less, they keep it back, but Nancy kind of lets everybody know she's a witch. And if you watch the movie, you can see that this matches her characterization very well. The costume designer mentioned that when they were styling the movie, everything had to be what would like a 90s teenage girl wear. Like they were kind of envisioning that like it had to be accessible to teenage girls of the time. So that's also why I love the movie. It's very casual stuff, but it all goes together, and I love the color palettes of all the girls together because it's very much black, white, maybe a deep red, maybe like an earth tone or like a navy blue, but it all goes so beautifully together. And the scene when all the girls go and do their coven ritual all together is one of my favorites because they look so light and glam compared to the later scene when they go to summon Manon. Everybody looks a little bit more hardened. So just some things I love about this movie. Again, the fashion really speaks for itself. It's a classic. I have to go leave for work, so I think I'm gonna split this video into 2 parts. I'm so sorry. So I've only talked about 5 movies in this video, but the next video I will talk about another 5 movies, so hopefully everyone will be satisfied. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love the fashion of all these movies. These ones specifically were like kind of more my favorites, and the last four were just kind of more 90s fashion. So we'll get into those in the next video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning into my channel. It literally means the world to me. Like, you guys don't even understand. I feel like I have a second chance with YouTube here. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love you so much. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.